If I told you that the Calgary Flames will win 7 straight games, with Mike Smith being the goalie for most of that winning streak, you would think I'm making another attempt at comedy video here, as the fan base this year has loved to hate our goalies. But in fact, that's what actually happened here. So anyway, it's time to look past the past 6 games here of the Calgary Flames, and then one game in particular, we'll look back and go way back to the past about one particular player, as it's time for another episode of... Hey there, it's Brett Hornby here. Welcome back to another episode of my Calgary Flames in 6 here. This is now episode number 12 here, as we'll take a look back at games 61 to 66 on the 2018-19 NHL regular season here, and which means that now with 66 games in the books here, there are 16 games left to go before playoffs here, and for much of the season here, the Calgary Flames have still, as of this recording, is still number 1 in the Western Conference and number 2 in the NHL here, and have already amassed their win totals and point total, and has been much better at home than we are last season. So it's all but official, but the Calgary Flames have 16 more regular season games, plus some more bonus hockey, also known as the Stanley Cup playoffs. So that's definitely something that we missed last year. But anyway, let's take a look at how things went the past 6 games here. And, it started off really well, but the last couple games, But, it's a long season, and if you're not the Tampa Bay Lightning, every team seems to have their ups and downs here. And one game in particular there, we definitely celebrated the past big time. So let's pull up my notes here, and also when we get to the recap part in chronological order, I'll also talk about the not much activity that the Calgary Flames did at trade deadline. And you know what? I am perfectly fine with not doing too much at the trade deadline. So let's we begin here. So if we go back to game 67, this happened on Friday, February the 22nd. The Calgary Flames took on one of our biggest rivals and nemesis, especially the past few years, the Anaheim Ducks, and this was at home at the Scotiabank Saddledome with a 7 p.m. puck drop, and this was definitely a tight one, as even though the Anaheim Ducks are not likely going to make the playoffs this year, they still give the Calgary Flames a tough time here. This was the end of a 3-game homestand at that time, and we won this one 2-1 in a not pretty fashion, but all the wins count in the same column there. So how to recap this one is that no scoring happened in the first period here. TJ Brody scored early in the second period at the 1-minute mark, so early in the second period. And then former Flame, who was a Flame part-time, Derek Grant, tied it up with at the 6-minute mark in the second period, so it was 1-1, and it stayed 1-1 for much of the game, till Engin Mangiapane, who has recently found his scoring niche, scored his 3rd goal of the year, scored the goal-line winner, with just over 3 minutes left in the third period there. So it was definitely a huge goal there. So the Flames took the 2-1 lead and eventually won this one 2-1 to sweep the 3-game homestand with 3 straight wins there. The Flames also outshot the Ducks barely 28-26, and it was Mike Smith in net for the Flames, outdoing Ryan Miller for the Ducks. So that was game 61. So game 62 here happened on Sunday, February 24th, on the eve of the trade deadline. The Calgary Flames were taking on the Ottawa Senators at the Canadian Tire Centre. It was a 5 p.m. puck drop here, and despite the Ottawa Senators really out of it and recently gone through their fire sale here and having players out of the lineup here, this one once again was another tight one. But another thing that overshadowed the fire sale and the disparity in the matchup here is that it was the battle of the Tkachuks here. Our Matthew Tkachuk was taking on Brady Tkachuk, Matthew's younger brother, and both are sons of former power forward Keith Tkachuk, who played with mostly with the St. Louis Blues and with the original Winnipeg Jets and the Phoenix Coyotes, and Brady was a Thrasher in the St. Louis Blues here. So let's just say if you were in the Tkachuk family, you would probably be happy on both ends here, because let's first start off that Michael Backlund scored first for the Calgary Flames here, and Brady Tkachuk tied it up in the first period there, or late in the second period actually, because Michael Backlund scored in the first period, and it was Brady Tkachuk that actually scored late in the second period, so it was 1-1 for the game there. And then both teams had a actually disallowed goal on an interference call, so it was still tied 1-1 till very, very late in the third period, like at the 1919 mark, very late. Austin Czarnik, he was coveted in the free agency there, and apparently 24 teams are on his tail there, but thankfully he chose the Calgary Flames. Another guy that has recently found some scoring touch there, scored the goal there to make it 2-1, and that was the final score, 2-1 for the Calgary Flames here. So you could say if you're in the Tkachuk family, we got to see Brady score a goal, and Matthew won, and they both lived up to their pact to not fight. But I don't know how that would work if they both fought there. I didn't think there was ever any chance that they would fight there, but that's one sidebar there. So the Calgary Flames did outshoot the Ottawa Senators 35-28 in this one, and it was Dave Riddick who was in net for the Calgary Flames, and actually originally was drafted by the Calgary Flames and didn't really come to a contract, was Craig Anderson. So for the Ottawa Senators, I would just say it was a defense scheme, despite the fact the Ottawa Senators were having their fire sale there and continuing their fire sale there during the trade deadline. And, Matt Shane got sent to the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Mark Stone eventually went to the Vegas Golden Knights. So speaking of the trade deadline, the next day was the trade deadline for the Calgary Flames, and the only move that they made was they acquired defenseman Oscar Fantenberg, who's a Swedish defenseman from the Los Angeles Kings, and it was a conditional fourth-round draft pick going Los Angeles' way in 2020. And it's conditional as in if the Calgary Flames make it to the third round of the playoffs this year, and if Oscar Fantenberg plays in 50% of those said playoff games, then Los Angeles will get a third-round pick in 2020 instead of fourth-round pick. So not a steep price to pay for depth defenseman. That's what the Calgary Flames were seeking, and I just felt the prices would have been too high to try to get like a Mark Stone or a Wayne Simmons, or they were supposedly saying that we need a goalie. But I'm perfectly happy with what the Calgary Flames did at the deadline there, despite, let's say Vegas getting Mark Stone or San Jose getting Gustav Nyquist from Detroit, or even, the Winnipeg Jets got Kevin Hayes from the Rangers. They were, Nashville definitely loaded up with Michael Granlund from the Minnesota Wild and Wayne Simmons from the Philadelphia Flyers there. So, those teams were expected to do well. The Flames, this has been a nice run being Stanley Cup contenders there. So that's just my trade deadline in a nutshell. Obviously, go to NHL.com there and recap all the trades if you decide. But I'm perfectly happy with the Flames not doing too much. Apparently, there was reports that we were about to get Jason Zucker for the Minnesota Wild, but apparently things didn't fall through or came in on time. But maybe that'll be a name maybe we'll get at the draft or down the road. So that's my trade deadline recap. So let's get back to the business at hand here. So Game 63 was on the next day, on Tuesday, February the 26th. The Calgary Flames were taking on another team that's surprisingly doing well this year, the New York Islanders, at the NYCB Live Nassau Coliseum. 6 p.m. puck drop here, and the Islanders definitely proved to be a lot tougher this week than last week when we beat the New York Islanders at the Dome here. No scoring happened in the first period. Matthew Tkachuk opened the scoring in the second period around the 3-minute mark. It was his 25th goal of the season at the time. And Josh Bailey for the New York Islanders tied it up about 5 minutes later, so it was 1-1 after 2 periods there. And then the Calgary Flames scored 2 quick goals in the third period because they won this game 3-1. They got a goal from Michael Backlund, and another guy that proves he has a shot from the point is defenseman Rasmus Sanderson, who put it away for the Flames. The shots were even at 27 apiece. Mike Smith, another strong game for the Flames, gave us the win. And Robin Leonard, who's been definitely a nice pickup for the New York Islanders this year, had a strong game as well for the Islanders there. So definitely another statement win, as both surprising teams were facing off each other, and the Flames swept the Islanders for their season series there. So then the next day, Game 64, happened on Wednesday, February 27th. The Calgary Flames finish up their brief 3-game road trip out east there against the New Jersey Devils at the Prudential Center, 5 p.m. puck drop. You could probably say the Devils have been a little bit of a disappointment this year after getting in the playoffs last year, but a lot of that had to do with Taylor Hall having an MVP season and Corey Schneider actually being a good goalie at the time. But like I said, this wrapped up a 3-game and 4-night road trip here, which usually is tough in hockey. But other thing to highlight here is that Oscar Fanenberg, the defenseman that we acquired from the Los Angeles Kings, made his Calgary Flames debut. As I say, he had 71 games in the NHL there. He played many seasons in the KHL at the Sochi Hockey Club, and then he spent a lot of time in the Swedish Hockey League. So he definitely has a lot of professional hockey experience, not necessarily North America here, but as I say, he's a depth defenseman for their stretch drive here. Can never have too many defensemen. Just see what the Flames had to go through in the 2004 Stanley Cup playoff run and almost won the Stanley Cup, but despite being short on D there. Memories. But going back to this game here, it was definitely, as we get down into the stretch drive here when everyone's trying to fight for points and playoff position here, was definitely another tight game here. Flames did take this one 2-1 here, but it was definitely another tight scoring game, and all the offense was actually compressed in the second period here as Calgary got the first 2 goals in this game. Elias Lindholm, guy picked up from Carolina after the 1-minute mark in the second period. Then the other is Mark Giordano, one of the, gotta say, favorite to win the Norris Trophy this year, scored about the 13-minute mark. And then Kevin Rooney for the New Jersey Devils scored about 3.5 minutes to go in the second period there to make it 2-1, and then that wound up being the final score here. One unfortunate highlight in this game, in the third period, there was an unfortunate accident for Mirko Mueller, who crashed awkwardly in the boards there and needed to take off in the stretcher there. But the player was fine and was released from hospital, so that's good news there. The game definitely, even though it was a 2-1 game for the Calgary Flames here, I'm going to say it definitely could have been more favored for the Flames there, as we did play the New Jersey Devils 35-20 in shots there. It was Mackenzie Blackwood for the New Jersey Devils who had a strong game, and David Riddick, who started for the Calgary Flames in this one, wasn't called upon too much, only made 19 saves. And this is where the Calgary Flames and their winning streak had put it up to 7 games in a row there, and Mike Smith actually played 5 of those 7 games, so it actually happened. But I think right now I'm going to have to say Mike Smith has been the better goalie here, as you'll find out here on the next 2 games. But unfortunately, all good things come to an end here. But let's get to the next game here on Game 65. This happened on Saturday, March the 2nd. Back home at the Scotiabank Saddledome, it was an 8 p.m. puck drop, Hockey Night in Canada here. But the big highlight of this night was before the game here is this was Jarome Iginla night. And for the 3rd time in franchise history, the Calgary Flames retired Jarome Iginla's number 12. It goes up in the rafters. Joined Larry McDonald and Mike Verinder, I made my video take on that, and it was definitely a beautiful, emotional ceremony. It happened before the game. Had the current Flames and Minnesota Wild out there to watch. I mean, it's always something special, especially if you're on the hockey team and having to be playing when a ceremony exists. I mean, team aside there, I'm sure a lot of players on both sides grew up cheering and watching Jarome Iginla over the years. So it was the big pregame ceremony for that. Oh yeah, after that, there was actually a hockey game played between, I said, the Calgary Flames and the Minnesota Wild here, and the odds were kind of stacked against the Calgary Flames this one because we were on a 7-game winning streak, home after a road trip, and had a pregame ceremony here. But it was actually a very frustrating game to watch as a Flame, because I think the Flames actually played well and outplayed the Minnesota Wild for the most part, but it was definitely a series of fortunate events that did us one under here. But the Wild actually got the breaks there, and they were definitely fighting for their playoff lives here. So Eric Stahl for the Minnesota Wild there scored the only goal for the Minnesota Wild in the first period there, about the 3-minute mark, to make it 1-0 for the Wild there. And then Sean Monahan answered back with his 30th goal of the season to tie it up at 1-1, and it was a 1-1 game after the second period here. And I was thinking, we're looking good going into the third period here, because the Flames have been the best third period team all season, and that's how we've come up with some comebacks and how we've put ourselves in the conversation for Stanley Cup contenders up to this point here. But unfortunately, the Wild definitely had lots of bounces here in the third period here. Is that early in the third period, I mean, one of Mike Smith's strengths is he comes out to play the puck and act like a third defenseman there, but unfortunately there was a play there that he was playing the puck behind the net there and got tied up with Jonah Hanifin, and the puck came out and bounced off. It was bouncing around like a pinball, and Matt Reed got credited with the second goal for the Minnesota Wild, so it was 2-1 Wild after that bizarre play early in the third period. Then that's still enough time to still come back. But then Ryan Suter, who was actually the cousin of Gary Suter, former Flame, made it 3-1 here at 11 minutes of the 11-minute mark of the third period there. Thinking we could still come back. And actually Travis Hamnick, a couple minutes later, provided hope for the Calgary Flames and made it a 3-2 game there. And the way the Calgary Flames were pressing there, I thought, well, another comeback win is possible here. But unfortunately, we could not get the equalizer here. And what was the backbreaker? One guy that recently got picked up from the trade deadline for the Minnesota Wild, Ryan Donato, scored one through the 5-hole, Mike Smith. And unfortunately, it was 4-2 for the Minnesota Wild, and that was the final score, 4-2 for the Minnesota Wild there. So that ended the 7-game winning streak for the Flames, and Minnesota Wild won 5 straight there and maintained their position at the second wildcard spot. And this could potentially be a first-round matchup here, and if it is, it'll definitely be a very interesting and physical affair given how it's played out here. One big reason why the Minnesota Wild was able to steal this one away for the Flames is that he played strong in net, and we did outshoot the Wild 37-23, but Devin Dubnyk made 35 saves in the victory, and Mike Smith did actually look suspect a few times, unfortunately, in this game, but he was strong for the last several weeks there, especially when he had the reins of taking the net back. So, he's human like the rest of us. Got him a little bit of slack there, but last sidebar of this game is saying how physical it is. Garnet Hathaway took a 5-minute major there. I mean, in slow motion there, it almost looked like a football tackle there, where he took Luke Kunin in the boards there, and looked like he kind of got bashed in the boards there. But Garnet Hathaway had a 5-minute major and a game misconduct, so he was out of the game there. And Luke Kunin eventually got back in the game from concussion protocol, and no supplemental discipline was given for Garnet Hathaway here. But definitely another layer to the story if we happen to draw the Minnesota Wild in the first round here. It'll definitely be a physical series here. So That was Game 65 on Jarome Iginla night. Sorry didn't get the win for him, but I know the Calgary Flames, when they retired Mike Vernon's number there back in 2007, was a little sluggish there and didn't win that night either. But historically, if you look around the NHL, usually the home team's at a disadvantage when they get back from a road trip and have a special ceremony. But I'm not trying to make excuses here, but there were definitely factors here. So Game 66, Monday, March the 4th here, to end up the 6-game segment here. The Calgary Flames took on the Toronto Maple Leafs, another team that was looked upon to be Stanley Cup contenders here. This was a 7 p.m. puck drop at the Scotiabank Saddledome here, and unfortunately it was a bad first period that pretty much did them in. It was 3-0 for Toronto after the first period there. It wasn't until the 15-minute mark of the second period that Matthew Tkachuk put Calgary on the board, and we were down 4-1 at the time. And then Toronto got 2 more goals in the second period while Calgary got only 1. So it was a 6-2 loss for the Calgary Flames. And Tyler Ennis for the Toronto Maple Leafs, he scored 3 goals for the hat-trick there, and it was a big celebration on dome ice for him. But, it's the original 6 team. You get a lot of Maple Leaf fans here. And also Zach Hyman, he chipped in with 2 goals himself. So there was 5 goals right there for the Toronto Maple Leafs. It was Derek Ryan that scored the other goal for the Flames, and Mitch Marner, one of the young stars for the Maple Leafs, scored the last goal for the 6-2 win. I mean, speaking of Mitch Marner, he had a goal and 2 assists in the game. Trevor Moore and Jake Musson also got 2 assists each for the Maple Leafs. I have to say, no one really stood out for the Flames here. I mean, other than if you count Matthew Tkachuk and John Tavares getting the physical play at the end of the third period there when the game was out of hand. The Flames did outshoot the Maple Leafs actually in this one, 37-32, but Frederik Andersen made 33 saves at least, and Dave Riddick was in for all 6 goals and made 26 saves. But you could say this is one of those games where Riddick was left to dry there. So Flames definitely ended off this 6-game segment very flat here, like an old pop here. So that's the 6-game segment here. So when it comes to injuries here, while James Neal is still out with his upper body injury, and there's no word on when he's coming back here. And then Michael Stone here, actually today, just before doing this recording here, he actually was loaned to the Stockton Heat for some conditioning here. So Michael Stone, who actually is the brother of Matt Stone, who was covered at the trade deadline, and there apparently maybe there was some word that the Calgary Flames were in on him, but our Stone, Michael Stone, is actually skating again and after reconditioning for the Stockton Heat. So I'm going to say whenever we get Neal back and Stone back, that's almost like picking up a couple more pieces at the deadline without actually picking up pieces at the deadline here. So when it comes to the standings here, after 66 games here, as I said in the opening here, we're still tops in the Western Conference and second in the league. I mean, if you told me that at the start of the year, I'd think you're crazy, but I'll take it. So right now, after 66 games, Flames have 41 wins, 18 losses, and 7 overtime losses for 89 points. And all those wins are overtime or regulation, because Calgary has not actually won a game in the shootout here. But the San Jose Sharks, they're on their heels, literally. In 66 games, they have 86 points, so we do have a 3-point lead on the San Jose Sharks in the Pacific here. And then the Vegas Golden Knights, top 3 in 67 games. They have 77 points here. So, I mean, we look at possibly playing the Vegas Golden Knights too in the first round if we slip to second here. And if you look in the Central Division in the Western Conference, well, the Jets have 82 points in 65 games. Nashville has 81 points in 68 games. And St. Louis rounds out the top 3 in the Central, because they've really gone around here. They have 74 points in 65 games. So when it comes to the wild cards, wild card number 1 is the Dallas Stars, 71 points in 65 games, and the Minnesota Wild in 66 games have 71 points. So if the Playoffs were to start right now, we would draw the Minnesota Wild here. But the Arizona Coyotes, yes, I said the Arizona Coyotes are just outside looking in. They have 65 points in 65 games. They have 69 points. So maybe we might draw the Arizona Coyotes in the first round after a remarkable run. And then in 66 games, Colorado advanced to 68 points. And then I'm not too sure if you can say the Edmonton Oilers still have a chance with 65 points in 66 games. But I think Colorado up, you still have a chance. If you're below Colorado in the West, it's time to start looking at next year. I mean, quick look at the Eastern Conference. I mean, no one's catching Tampa Bay and Atlantic because they have 104 points in 66 games, and actually they were the fastest team to ever record 50 wins. And then the Boston Bruins are second, 65 games and 87 points. And then the Toronto Maple Leafs, the team that we lost to in 66 games, they have 86 points. It looks like Toronto and Boston, they're destined to meet up in the first round again this year, but it's looking close on who will get home ice. Metro Division, Washington in 66 games, they have 83 points. Followed by the New York Islanders, who are 2 points behind after 65 games, they have 81 points. And then the Carolina Hurricanes, they've been, just a bunch of jerks and celebrating their school style and having fun here. They're third place with 60, and after 65 games have 78 points. And then if you look at the wild cards here, we do have a pretty tight race here in the Eastern Conference here. Pittsburgh has 77 points in 65 games. And then Montreal is last in wild card. They have 77 points in 66 games, but the Columbus Blue Jackets have 75 points in 65 games. And you might say the Philadelphia Flyers have an outside chance. 72 points in 66 games, but that's 5 points back with Montreal. But I think if you're below Philadelphia in the East, it's getting to be too late there. So that's the quick standings look. I think the next video I'll do over player stats for the Flames here. So let's look ahead here for the next 6 games. As game 67, this will be on Wednesday, March the 6th. The Calgary Flames going a quick 2-game road trip here to play potential first-round opponents here, starting with the Vegas Golden Knights. That's at the T-Mobile Arena. 8:30 puck drop. That's definitely a late one, but that's game 67. So let's say if we slip to second place, we'll likely play the Vegas Golden Knights in the first round, but I'd rather stay number 1. And then game 68, Thursday, March the 7th, if the Arizona Coyotes continue their strong play and either supplant Dallas or Minnesota here, that's what we play on Thursday, March the 7th at the Gila River Arena, 7 p.m. puck drop. The Arizona Coyotes, and they're in the hunt too. So if we win the division, we could potentially play the Arizona Coyotes in the first round. After that, well, game 69, Sunday, March 10th. Well, remember that's the day where you got to set your clocks an hour ahead. We actually take on the Vegas Golden Knights again, but this time at the Scotiabank Saddledome. That's a 7 p.m. puck drop. And then game 70, Thursday, March the 12th. The Calgary Flames take on the New Jersey Devils at the Scotiabank Saddledome, 7 p.m. puck drop. And then game 71, Friday, March the 15th. The Calgary Flames wrap up a 3-game homestand here. They take on the New York Rangers at the Scotiabank Saddledome, 7 p.m. puck drop. And then game 72, which this will encompass episode 13 here. Saturday, March 16th, the Calgary Flames go on the road here. They go into Winnipeg at the Bell TF Center, 5 p.m. puck drop on Hockey Night in Canada here. So definitely going to get a busy stretch here. But if you look at the calendar for the Calgary Flames here, there's more red than white here, because February we definitely had a lot more road games, but we'd actually definitely have a lot more home games to look forward to in March here. So that's definitely my Calgary Flames in 6 for episode 12 there. Had a very strong start. Then we had some, nostalgia with the Jarome Iginla night there, but then unfortunately we dropped the last 2 at home here. But, this team seems to be able to find a way to rebound after dropping a few games and show that, we are contenders. And that's what I've been saying since episode 7, just before Christmas here. So anyway, if you enjoy everything you do that you see on my YouTube channel, just make sure you hit like, subscribe, and follow along with the Flames. And I also do this for the Hitmen, and they're looking good to get into the playoffs there. And then I do my monthly segment actually for the Calgary Roughnecks, and then in a couple months here, now we're in the first week of March here, there's going to be some CFL here, and I plan to do the same thing for my Calgary Stampeders this month, but it'll be episode 2, but this time we're defending Grey Cup champions. So anyway, I'll see you at the next video.